Okay, we're going to get started. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. I am Greg Yotis. I am the Senior Sales Director here at Pinnacle for Life and Annuities. Thank you for joining us today. Today's topic for the webinar, we are going to explore different ways to use annuities to generate retirement income. So, I'm going to assume that you mostly know the basics of annuities for this presentation, but please, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat, and I will answer those questions either when I get a chance or at the end of the presentation. So today we just want to talk about different ways to use fixed annuities and fixed index annuities to generate retirement income for your clients. I have a few sample illustrations to go through with you so we can see those numbers and how it works in practical terms. So with that, let me just get started here. As always, for those of you who may be on the call and are new to annuities, there is an additional required training that you need to do. It is the Annuity Best Interest Suitability Training. It's a 4-hour training. We suggest you use WebCE, but you can use any continuing education provider. Basically gives you, the basics about annuities and suitability and what makes sense. So that is a requirement to get appointed with any new any annuity carriers. So let's take a look at why are annuities in demand these days. Couple reasons. One, as we've all experienced the stock market and those variable products that your clients may have, they are pretty volatile, right? They go up and down, unlimited upside, but also unlimited downside. And for our individuals or our clients that are nearing or in the beginning stages of requirement, volatility is not their friend. So they want to avoid that. And what the annuities, the fixed annuities do is that they basically give them that, principal protection. It's going to give them predictable income. It's going to really negate any of that market volatility that you have with those variable products. When you think of it, what is the most concerning thing to retirees, right? If it's, did I save enough money for retirement? Am I going to outlive my retirement savings? These products, which I'm going to show you today, they solve that, right? You're going to have that income, and you're going to have that principal protected during your retirement years, so they can sleep well at night. And no, as always, annuities are the only thing that you can get guarantees on as far as an investment. So, just to briefly go over some of the key features, like I said, you're going to have guaranteed interest rates, especially on the fixed, multi-year guaranteed annuities. Principal protection, which is huge. No fear of losing money because the stock market decides to take a dip. That tax deferred income, right? They're only paying taxes. Either if it's qualified money, they're paying taxes as ordinary income because they haven't paid taxes on there yet. And they're only going to pay taxes on any earnings above what's considered their principal, which is the amount that they put in if it's non-qualified money. So, and pretty simple performance structure, straightforward returns. So, not a lot of complicated math equations to figure out what your return is going to be. So, how does fixed annuities work? It's going to start first with the client's investment, right? They're going to deposit a premium in there. The insurance company is going to guarantee fixed rates for the contract or guarantees. Those guaranteed rates, are consistently the same regardless of what those market conditions are. And then, for the fixed index annuities, you can put income riders or income options on there. And we're going to go through 3 different scenarios of using an annuity to generate retirement income. So, again, just bringing home the point, the benefits to the clients, they're going to have predictable growth with no market volatility, safety of their principal, no downturns, ideal solution for conservative investors or anyone who's nearing retirement because, when you're in the accumulation stage, you're generally going to be younger, and you could take those the volatility and ride it out. But when you're getting closer to retirement, you're going to start drafting this money. You need that downside protection and that more of a protection on those investments. No annual fees, no hidden costs in there, like you have with a lot of the variable products, and peace of mind that they're going to know exactly what they're going to get. So, it's like I said, going to make sure that they go ahead and know exactly what they're getting and can feel secure. So when you look at some of the fixed indexed annuities, as we should know, those are going to be tied to index segments, which is going to generate those returns for you. You have your zero downside risk, like I said, in both the multi-year guaranteed annuities and the fixed annuities. You get a higher potential return with those fixed annuities, right? And that minimum, guaranteed minimum, just the floor, you're protected. 0% is the lowest return that you can receive. You may hear even the funny quote, zero is your hero, right, for these products. Key differences when we're comparing the fixed and the fixed indexed annuities. For the fixed multi-year guaranteed annuities, which generally we provide, that you have that guaranteed growth rate that's set. They know exactly what they're going to get interest-wise. Easy, straightforward structure, steady, predictable returns, no market participation. With the fixed index annuity, you get everything that you get with the fixed annuity, but you have a little bit, market length growth. So you have a little bit up of a higher upside, but still have that downside protection. Fixed annuities, client suitability, when you're looking at that, when you're talking to your clients, where does it make sense, right? So fixed annuities, multi-year guaranteed annuities, you're going to have, lower risk current clients, people that are really conservative, income, retirees, people that are income focused, absolute predictability. They want to know exactly what they're going to get. Just categorize that as conservative investors. For the fixed indexed annuity, they're going to be more growth focused. They want to take a little bit more risk. They don't care about getting a guaranteed rate of return because they know they can get a little bit higher if the indexes perform. They want to participate somewhat in the market, right, but not directly in the market. Have a little bit longer time horizon, right? So just to level set, if somebody is starting retirement, you got to factor in they're going to be retired probably for at least 20, 25 plus years, depending on how long they live. So that money has to last, right? But it still gives them the safety and the flexibility to get that growth and to have it perform and do exactly what they want in retirement. Now, once you have those, you can on the fixed index annuities, I'm going to take a look at this, but there are, either called living benefits or income riders that you can put on there, and that's what generates that guaranteed income using a rider, and we have an example of that. That's for people who want to maximize their retirement. And then finally, I'll just mention it, with all of the annuity applications, anyone who's done an annuity application knows they are quite extensive and long. So we do have our own version of Firelight out on our PFS Insurance website. So, feel free to use that. We have about 90% of the annuities that we offer out on that Firelight system. If it's not on the Firelight system, you can always do a e-application directly from the carrier site. So let me transition to some illustrations, And the first one we're going to take a look at, this is an example of using a multi-year guaranteed annuity. This is Athene's max rate 5-year product. And we're just going to use this for a steady stream of income. So if we take a look at here, so this is the sample I have here is a 65-year-old male. It's non-qualified money, so they've already paid the taxes on $500,000 of their premium, so it's non-qualified money. This 5-year product is giving them a 4.75 interest rate guaranteed, so 4.75 every year for the next 5 years. And what we're going to do is we're just going to simply take out that 4.75% interest, right, as income. So as you see here on the ledger pages, let me go to the non-guaranteed here. See, well, there's just guaranteed on the multi-year guarantee. But so if you look at the ledger, and I'll try to make this a little bigger so it's easier to see here. So, you know, we're beginning at age 65. He's going to put in $500,000. His 4.75% interest is going to equate to $23,750, right? That's what he's going to get each year in income. He's not even touching the principal. His principal is going to stay at $500,000 because we're only taking out that interest. And he's going to get, you know, his income for the next 5 years is $23,750, right? So cumulatively, by the time we get to the guarantee period, the end of it, he's put in his $500,000. He's already received $118,750 back in income and hasn't touched his principal. So that's the safety of what the MIGA does, right? You can get that interest payment. He can use this for whatever he wants. Still has this $500,000 he puts in. Now, at the end of the guarantee period, you can just roll that over into another 5-year MIGA. Now, the interest rate may be different because, you know, based on interest rates, it may be down a little bit. It may be up. So in that case, you know, this is just showing a base guarantee of what he's going to receive. But you would just continue those withdrawals, and those withdrawals would be this, you know, calculated based on whatever the new interest rate is. But he still would never touch his principal. So that's using the MIGA really for conservative people. I would say because the interest rate can fluctuate up and down, you know, over that 5-year period or at the end of the 5-year period, you know, it's not going to be as predictable as income, but it's really for somebody who doesn't want to touch their principal. They want to make sure it's there for their beneficiaries, and basically continue to get some sort of income from that money. So that's a great option. Very conservative people, but people who don't necessarily need a ton of income in retirement, this works really well. The next example, for those people who want a little bit more income, but not quite maximizing it just yet, we have the fixed indexed annuity. So this is another example from annuity. This is, a theme. This is a Performance Elite 10 product, fixed indexed annuity. So if you see here, we just used the same client, age 65, and non-qualified money, 500,000. We put it in you can always put it in multiple indexes if you want to diversify, but for simplicity's sake, we just put it in here at the 1-year annual point-to-point S&P 500 index, 100% into that. The current cap on there is 5.5%. And so here's the different, as we all know, the different options for the indexes. So you can choose any of these. Some have participation rates, some have caps. And we covered the difference between participation rate and caps in our previous Annuity 101 webinars. But you can definitely use that, and those, you're not locked into that after the 1-year segment. You can always change if the client wants to, or you want to change the allocation for the client. But for simplicity's sake, we use the S&P 500. So if we scroll down and take a look, what you see here on the non-guaranteed ledger. So, right, you uh, first year, right, we're not taking out any kind of income. 65 index did the 5.5% up to the cap. So they credited that. So now his 500,000, and he's getting a bonus here as well. So his actual death benefit. Let me just go back down. So here seems like it's kind of running some of the income rider, but essentially what you're doing here is very similar to what we're doing with the multi-year guaranteed annuity, where you're putting it in. Now he's getting a little bit higher because he's getting a bonus on this product. But with the 5.5% return after year one, his free withdrawal is going to be $30,000. And he continues to receive that. So every year that he has a interest return, the following year he'll get the payout. So any years that he gets a 0% return, so he just got 0%. The following year he gets no income. So this is where the unpredictability comes in with not having it tied to an index. I mean a income rider. But you could see he's getting more than you would get in the multi-year guaranteed annuity, as long as the S&P hits that cap, and he's still being able to take out, in some cases 30,000. In other years it goes up to 32, but he's not touching his principal, right? His accumulated value, you could see here, he's taken out basically at age 92. He's taken out 600. This is a cumulative withdrawals. He's taken out $663,000, and his accumulated value is still 616. So he hasn't even touched his principal. He's only taken out, whatever the policy is actually generating in interest. So again, really good for those people who don't necessarily need the very predictable income, but want to take income but not touch their principal. And then finally, here's our example of using an income rider, and this is probably our most popular fixed index annuity when generating retirement income. This is the Nationwide Peak 10 fixed index annuity. So just to give you an example how this product works, you definitely get some benefits when you use those riders. So in this example, we're just using a male 65 again for an example. 250,000 they're putting in. This actually comes with, oh, this is not the one I wanted to show. Bear with me for just a second. Apologize for that. It just isn't what I wanted to show. Okay. So, all right, here we go. So we're just going to use a little bit different. So this is a male, age 77, so a little bit older. But if they're putting 400,000 in, it could be a rollover from a 401k, it could be a rollover from a traditional IRA. Can be non-qualified. It takes both. So in this situation, they're putting in 400,000. They are putting the living benefit rider in there. That benefit rider comes with a 1% charge on an annual basis. Now, what you get for that 1% rider fee, which is pretty standard in the industry, the 1%, you're going to get a bonus day one of 25%. And then what you're going to get too is a minimum income benefit value roll up of 8% every year that you don't start income or take income for the first 10 years. So in this case, because the client is a little bit older, 77, they wanted to start the income at 78, so waiting 1 year. You have a 10-year surrender on there. As always, annuities all have surrender charges if you're closing out the account and taking all your money out, but you can always take out 10% penalty free. In this case, we actually put two different indexes. We put a S&P 500 annual daily risk index, 25% in that, and then a little bit more aggressive global H factor, 75% in that. But then, and what you see here, the reason why the cap on the S&P 500 daily risk is 10%. This global factor is a 2-year term. So you have to wait 2 years to get your returns, but it has a 265% participation rate. So really high participation rate. And then if we go, a lot of different ways to say the same stuff, but if we go here to the non-guaranteed illustration, we could do the most recent 10-year returns of those indexes repeating. So in this case, if you follow, he's 77, he put 400,000 in. His with the 25% bonus, his income benefit is now 500,000. So he received 100,000 day one in his income benefit. So when you have the rider, you essentially have two different buckets of money. You have your contract value and then your income benefit. So he received that 25% bonus on that income benefit. Starts his income at age 78, right? He actually got an 8% roll up. So an 8% roll up on that 500,000 is now 540,000. And he starts the income withdrawal. And his income starts at a minimum of $39,690 a year for the rest of his life. Now with market performance, with that global H factor index, you see here they get a really nice 37.41% return. It increases, right, his cash value, and he's actually able to get higher income as that benefit base outpaces the cash value there. So he, starts out at 39,690, gets all the way up to 40,427. And then here's the real kicker. If you look realistic numbers, it goes out to age 107, but if we just look here, if he goes to age 95, right? So he has some longevity in his family, he lives to age 95. He basically has a cash value still of $389,000, which is almost his initial premium. And then if you see over here, the cumulative withdrawals, they've actually received $723,905 or $995. So that's what they received in income, but they still have approximately their initial premium in there. And that's based on market, gains based on the indexes and having the income rider on there with the benefits to be able to generate that higher income. So, and this is guaranteed, these lifetime withdrawal numbers, so you can never outlive them. So this is really for somebody who wants to maximize their income in retirement, utilize that the rider to get some, additional guarantees, roll-ups, in this case, a bonus on that amount that they're putting in there, and generate that guaranteed annual income. This is really just, giving somebody their own personal pension plan for all that, all those years they saved for retirement and maximizing it. So 3 different options, like I said, using the MIGA, like with the MIGA here with the 4.75 for a 5-year MIGA, just getting the interest out. You can use the fixed indexed annuity, interest only, just pulling based on the returns of the indexes, never touching the principal. And then you have your income rider where you can get a bonus and still use that income for lifetime income rider. So that is what I wanted to share with you. If anyone, let's see if there's any questions out there. I don't show that there's any questions. As always, you can reach out to myself or Mark Bolger here on the desk, and we can always help you case design these for you. You really just need to come to us with, the amount that they want to roll over, what their goals are, the person's state, their age, and we can help you run those illustrations and get them back to you, and work with you on how to explain these illustrations to the client when you're wanting to present it. So if that is all, no other questions, I'll let you have the rest of the day. Thank you again for joining me. Talk to you all soon.